All right. Good evening, everyone. Feel free to keep coming on in. Take a seat. People can come as they arrive. I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. This is a very important topic for us, and we really are excited to be able to talk with you and engage with you. And you guys many of you have submitted questions in advance, so we will be addressing those tonight, so I really appreciate that. But before we go into those questions, I wanted to hand it over to Dr. Huff, have him say a few words, and then we will get to some of the questions that you guys have submitted.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagler. Good evening, everybody. Oh, there we go. Kind of like that church call and response. First of all, thank you for taking the time to come out to hear about, as Mrs. Wagler said, our transition to our sixth graders in middle school next year. This is an outstanding time for us in Elkhart Elkhart Community Schools. I have elementary on my mind, but I know where they're going. I'm excited to answer your questions, and if you did submit questions tonight, you will have your questions answered by myself or a member of our team. We went through each and every one of them, and you will have clear and transparent answers to where we are today in regards to issues related to transportation and athletics and academics, and why is this a good move? This wasn't something that we just thought about this school year. This conversation has been going on in Elkhart Community Schools for, I don't know, raise your hand, it's been going on for longer than a year. 5 years, 10 years. 6, Doug? I disagree. Raise your hand if it's going on back probably when you were in school. Okay, so I say this is, the best time to do something is the right time. I think the right time is now. But tonight, my team and I will share with you some of the reasons and the evidence-based research that we have concluded to make sure that you know, one, that we've taken all sides into account, but two, that we're making sure that we're doing these things with care. So tonight's program is going to kind of be, Mrs. Wagler is going to ask questions. I will remind you a little bit about the feasibility study that was conducted back in 22. Some of you weren't in Elkhart during that time, but I will share a little bit about that, and then we'll go straight into the questions. So, Ms. Wagner, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And will you talk about the form solution?
All right. Again, I want to extend our gratitude for those that have submitted questions in advance. But if you did not have a chance to submit a question in advance, you can follow the QR code there and still tell us your thoughts. We also have papers back at the black table, and you can fill out those questions as well. We would love to know any other questions that you have that can help clarify this transition process. We will collect those questions both online and at the paper, through the papers. We'll collect those at the end of the forum, and then we will use those questions for an FAQ page that will be on our website. So that FAQ page will keep accumulating as we get new questions, and so that'll be updating each week as there are new questions added, so please go and check that regularly. So, all right. Let's dive into the discussion. First of all, the feasibility study. The decision to transition our sixth graders has been a thoughtful process that didn't happen overnight. It's the culmination of many years of research and planning, and a significant part of this was the feasibility study conducted in 2022, which looked at various factors including the educational benefits, community needs, and the resources. And this study played a key role in forming our approach and ensuring that we're making the best decision for our students. So, are we?
I can talk.
I was say, Dr. Huff, would you like to talk more about the feasibility study and what the findings were?
I certainly can. All our recommendations, well, many of the recommendations that came from the feasibility study, we will be implementing during this transition. But I want to talk to you about some of the big takeaways with that feasibility study if you weren't here. In a nutshell, it was a year-long process where we had an outside demographer come and look at our school district and look at issues related to enrollment. I will be upfront and share with you today where our enrollment is compared to where they thought it would be. They thought our enrollment this year, that demographers thought we would have 10,950 students. We don't have 10,950 students. We have 10,580, is that our last count? So it's off by 400 students. So that was one of the things that they looked at, our enrollment. And if you probably have paid attention over time, enrollment has decelerated faster than what we would like. Also, they looked at facilities usage during that feasibility study, how we were effectively utilizing our facilities at both the elementary, the middle school, and the high school levels. And they came up with some recommendations, that key committee. Another thing that they looked at in that study is how do we configure our schools in the best way to make sure that we're utilizing our resources effectively. And one of the biggest takeaways that I read was 92% agreement across all stakeholders was that the move from a K through 6 model to a K through 6 model to a K through 5 model at the elementary school, and then moving away from the junior high model, which is 7 and 8, to more of a middle school model, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. That was almost a consensus of everyone who participated in that committee and the feedback that we got from our parents and members of our community. So I felt like this would be a layup, but there's a lot of layers to it as well. And so that feasibility study isn't just something that we took very lightly. The board, the committee, and teachers spent countless hours doing that committee work to make sure they came up to that recommendation to give to the new superintendent when whoever that person got here, so they can help to execute that vision. So that new superintendent will have the extreme pleasure of making sure that this happens and this lands well. But one area of the feasibility study where I believe I can add a little bit of value with my team is that talking about the programming. And so tonight we'll answer your questions that have a lot to do with programming, but I kind of wanted to give you some background on where these decisions came from. Some of the questions tonight asked, why are you making this decision now? Well, this process of this decision was started quite a few years ago, and we're just now coming to it, trying to give it to you a year ahead of time. So we'll go a little bit further into that, into your questions. So I hope that gives you a little bit of background on what that feasibility study is. If you want to know a little bit more about it, you can go on our website. You can just literally Google Elkhart feasibility study, and it will come up, and it will give you, I counted this morning, 771 pages of information. You don't have to look at all those pages, but if you want to know more, it's right there. So back to you, Mrs. Wagler.
All right, so that gives you a little bit of the history. Now we're at the present, 2024. But now let's look a little bit to the future, what this next year will look like. It's essential for our families to know what to expect as we move forward in this process. So we've outlined some key milestones on what families can anticipate in the upcoming months, so I want to walk through some of those. Do you want to walk through a timeline, or do you want me to get to the questions? Because we have a couple of questions regarding the timeline.
I think this is a pretty free-flowing
all right.
process, and I really think parents want their questions answered.
Yep,
So
all right.
So let's answer the questions.
All right, so one of the questions submitted, I'm going to combine them. It says, for years we have been told that the middle schools don't have room to house 6th grade, so what's changed? And how will those issues be handled? And that's going to piggyback, so I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Giannisi. Piggybacking that, I'm going to stop right there because this is a multi-pronged. So let's start right there with, will we have room for 6th grade to go into the middle schools?
So we've been meeting with the building staff and looking at my name is Tony Giannisi. I'm our Chief Operating Officer. So we've been meeting with the staff in each of the buildings. We've been reviewing our long-range plans that we've had in place for the facilities, and we are confident that we have enough room in the buildings for the 6th graders to be added. Back in the early 80s, we actually had 7th, 8th, and 9th graders in each of these buildings, and that was before we conducted a major project and added on to them. And we had somewhere between 900 and 1,000 students in the buildings at that time with the space that we had. With the move that we're going to be doing, We are anticipating somewhere between 700 and 800 students in the buildings, depending on the sending schools, the feeding schools, and who comes into the building. So we have more than 829 lockers in each building. So we have enough lockers. That was also one of the questions.
Yes.
So we do have enough existing lockers. We're actually going to upgrade the existing lockers, replace them with new, and add additional as we see needed. But we are confident that we do have the space, and we've already identified spaces in the building so that the sixth graders could actually be grouped together, and so they would have their own area for their core classes, if you will.
So, Mr. Giannisi, since we're talking timeline through this process, what are some of the changes to the facilities and the buildings that will be made in order to be able to embrace this transition?
So we will be giving them a good, healthy makeover. We'll be providing new carpet throughout, painting throughout, lighting throughout, ceiling work where needed. We'll be looking at the cafeteria and kitchen areas. We'll be upgrading all of the restrooms so that they're all ADA compliant, and just a lot of touch-ups to make sure that the buildings are ready to go. We will also be looking at new PA systems in 2 of the buildings, new digital signage for the upgrade, and a bit of exterior work in terms of painting and repairs as needed.
What about lunchrooms? Will there be enough room for lunches for all the students?
Sorry, do you mean will there be enough space?
Space in the lunchroom, excuse me, yes.
So I'm going to defer a little bit to our doctors at the end of the table here, but based upon our early conversations, we're looking at increasing the number of lunch periods from 3 to 4. And so in doing that, our cafeterias will have enough room for the students.
Okay. And what kind of a timeline are we looking at for these to start? All of these changes to start and to be completed?
So the current schedule that we're looking at is to begin work in February with the classroom renovations. We're going to select a group of classrooms in each building to begin the work, and we are going to work through them about 4 classrooms at a time, doing the painting, the carpeting, the lighting, all the work in those 4 classrooms. Once those are done, then students will move into those classrooms and we'll vacate other classrooms, and we're just going to move through the buildings at a rate that, at least right now, we intend to have everything done in the classrooms by August.
May I ask a follow-up? Were you talking about the work that's going to be done before February?
Yes, and so there are a couple projects that are easier to handle in the buildings. We are looking at adding the digital signs, the PA systems, and we are upgrading our door card access readers for the IDs. Those will be done as well. And I think there's one more.
Removal of certain items from rooms as well, right?
Yes, correct. We'll be doing a bit of removal from some of the rooms as well.
Okay. If you need this. All right. Another questions that many of the families have asked are, what are the educational benefits of moving 6th graders into the middle school? Research shows that this transition can provide students with greater opportunities for academic growth, access to specialized teachers, and broader curriculum. So, we've got several questions related to the educational benefits. One parent had said, I need some clarification about 6th graders being grouped with 7th and 8th graders. Mentality, behaviors are all different. We've got preteens, we've got teenagers mixed in with those. Can you bring some more light to how this will happen together? Dr. Roush?
Yep. Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Roush. I am the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction. And also I'm a former middle school principal that had 6th, 7th, and 8th graders for 6 years down in the Indianapolis area. So as far as educational benefits, the 6th graders and 7th graders will be in the same hallway areas. Obviously, when they go to their elective courses, they will possibly pass through 8th graders, and it's okay. that happens, because again, they kind of look up to the 8th graders, and those 8th graders become role models also to the 6th graders. They will be in English, math, science, social studies, and they will be taking elective courses, and that is a process that we'll be working through as we create a schedule with the 6th graders in mind.
What are some other educational opportunities and benefits that students can look forward to in 6th grade?
Yeah, I would say definitely, again, the expansion of electives, because they will be able to do the arts, music, technology, PE, health, so there will be those besides your core subjects.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Roush. And if I can just add on to what she's saying, also this is a great time to reimagine what that middle school experience looks like. And so we're going to also partner with a outstanding organization called Forward Next Generation Learning that is going to help us to teach those entrepreneurial skills to our 6th and our 7th and our 8th graders. We were selected based off our district's potential, but also they were very excited to work with Elkhart Community Schools based off where our high school and how it's designed. It's a natural progression. If you've been following the state of Indiana, they really have been promoting pathways and apprenticeships. And right now that's missing a little bit in our middle schools. So this is a great opportunity for us to provide that curriculum and working along with teachers in designing that work, and working with Forward NGL to help us to make sure that all our middle school students have various different pathways to success post-secondary. So it's never too early to start thinking about that. And so while we're making this move, we want to make sure that the programming behind it is also solid and world-class for our students. Thanks.
And this next question, I'm not sure that it is educational benefits, but I didn't know what category to put it in. One parent wanted to know about recess for 6th graders. Is that a thing?
It's a thing.
Would,
Mrs. Price, you want to come answer?
it is, yeah.
No, I'll bring
Sure.
the microphone.
Yep. Just push the button underneath. Will there be recess for 6th graders that are going into middle schools? Is it push the bottom button? Yep. Hold it longer. There we go.
Hello? Okay, there you got it, okay. No, there's not going to be a traditional elementary kind of recess in middle school. So I've been a principal in a middle school, in an elementary, and I've also been a parent. Oh, please, okay, okay, all right. You can see I don't like speaking in front of crowds, so it's hard enough in front of kids. And I've also raised 3 kids who went through Elkhart Community Schools. And there's one thing I know about you parents, because I experienced it. This is the toughest transition, is going from elementary to the next level, whether it's 5th grades going to 6th grade or 6th graders going to 7th grade. This is the transition that parents worry about the most. Because we're not in that your kids are not in that self-contained classroom with one teacher most of the day, and so now they're going to be doing some passing periods and things are going to change. But I can guarantee you that kids adjust very well. And I think it is parents who struggle the most watching their kids leave that elementary school environment. So traditional recess we won't have, but we will have lunchtime for socialization. There will be passing periods. There will be clubs. There will be activities. There will be opportunities to engage with other students and socialize through group projects. So there will be opportunities for socialization. And the important thing is that we work with our kids to make sure that we're working with the school and trying to identify all the activities that they can participate in so they can develop those social relationships and grow. But also, we want to start preparing kids for the academic road that they're going to be on. And we know that as they move through school, things get a little more challenging, a little bit more demanding, and so slowly we want to adjust that. This is going to be a gradual release to these for the kids. We're not going to expect them to act like an 8th grader in middle school. We're going to expect them to be 6th graders, and we are going to work with them at the developmental level that they are at when they enter their middle school next fall. But trust me, I understand the nervousness and the anxiety that you may have. I also know that most of our kids, we put them on the bus and they're nervous and they're scared, and will I know anybody? And then a couple of days later, as you have all done yourselves, you know that you come home with a smile on your face. Most of the kids do. And are happy. So they make those adjustments. They're a little sad about not having that unstructured play opportunity, but they also feel older and have more responsibility and more challenges, and that's good for them because that's when brains grow. That's when development takes place, is when kids are stressed a little bit and they have a challenge in front of them. So, short answer is no recess, but lots of socialization opportunities. And physical education opportunities, too.
Thank you, Mrs. Cripe. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, the next category is very similar to this one, so I think that there's a lot of overlap. So this is programming, and I know that there's going to be more opportunities and more extracurricular activities, more subjects to learn from. And so I just want to open this up to the panel. No specific questions here, but what would you like to share about the programming or any educational benefits that we have not talked about thus far?
I'll speak up. With our kids transition in middle school, Mrs. Cripe, you did a wonderful job explaining about that transition. One of the things that I would want our parents to know is that this is just not about the educational programming of students. It's about making sure that we meet their affective needs as well. In this room, he is not in this presentation, but you, Mr. Adam, yes? We have probably the best counseling support team in the state of Indiana. No lie, here in Elkhart Community Schools. And so I would be remiss to say, we can focus a lot on the great programs that are going to be here. I'm looking into Project Lead the Way, looking into NGL. We can look to having expanded literacy blocks, expanded math blocks, all those things. But it doesn't happen if the kids don't feel supported throughout this process. And I know that you're going to do an outstanding job. You and your teammate, where did she go? There she's in the back, are going to do an outstanding job of making sure kids at Moran successfully enter into middle school. Also, team teaching approach is going to be crucial as well. We don't, as Mrs. Cripe said, we are not going just to release them out to a full schedule where you're used to only dealing with one teacher. Now you're dealing with, what, right now currently at the middle school, is it 6 or 7? A full schedule, they have 6 periods, right? So 7 teachers. That's not going to happen. They will have more of a consolidated path into middle school. So 6th grader experiences will be a little bit different than the 7th and 8th grade experience. There'll be more of a team teaching approach in that hallway. And they'll be assigned to a person assigned to look over them. Also, we need to expand security also. I mean, I think it's important that we have appropriate amount of security at school, so we'll look at that. And also, our counseling services, we need to expand those as well. So we're looking at those things from a programming point of view, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about those other things to make those things happen. We're going to put some things on our counselors' plates. They're going to have to be responsible to figure out, kids, if you're in 8th grade now, Looking at the graduation diploma, we got to know what you need to know now in order to graduate based off the requirements in 2029. You need to know that now. So they're going to play an instrumental role in making sure that kids select the right courses, have the right experience, and get them exposed earlier to those college-related experience. It feels like we're going to grow kids up faster, but we're not. We're going to let them know this is the whole world that's available to you, and we're here to help you along the way. So I really want to make sure that we talk about the effective needs of our children as well.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have anything to add before we move on to athletics? All right, moving on to go ahead.
High ability. I want to make sure we talk about high ability programming as well.
Hi. My name is Lisa Ernsberger. I'm our Director of Professional Learning, and part of that job is overseeing high ability. At current, what our guiding coalition had set forward with our middle schools was that all 3 middle schools housed honors students, and Westside housed our cohort of students who have a differentiated, accelerated curriculum. So our stakeholders will be meeting next month to look at the various options to make sure we carry forward with best practices in high ability, and also the wishes of our guiding coalitions at our middle school level. And so I can, at this point at least, guarantee that all 3 middle schools will have high ability students. What our cohorted programs look like will be a little bit of something that our stakeholder groups will be looking at and discussing.
Thank you, Mrs. Ernsberger. And also, one of the things that we're also looking at is tutoring opportunities for our kids at the middle school level. Looking back over the years, I don't think there has been a lot of investment in that for our middle school kids. Some of you are shaking your head like, I don't think I ever remember that being an opportunity for our kids. That will be an opportunity this year and moving forward. And also thinking about summer as well. There will be middle school, summer school next year. So if you're a middle schooler now, don't be mad at me. But there will be summer school opportunities for kids in the middle school sector. I think it's important that we provide them with as many experience as possible and keep them engaged in school as much as possible, particularly to prevent not just learning loss, but we need to increase connection. This is where I think we lose kids during the times of transition. If we strengthen those bonds as they transition, we have a greater chance to not only have a happier, healthier child, but a more academically engaged and inclined child as well.
All right, thank you. And my apologies, my eyes glossed over one of the most common questions that we received in the questionnaires, which was transportation. So one of the most common things people questioned was the impact that transportation will have on this transition. And yes, yep. So we want to make sure that we're committed to ensuring that the transportation system is efficient and effective. And so we have been taking some steps right now to ensure that that happens. So a couple of the questions that we have for transportation. First of all, will the school expect 6th graders to walk up to 2 miles by themselves?
Tony Genesi, Chief Operating Officer. One of the departments I oversee is transportation. So every year during the summer, we have what we call rollover. We take the existing students and roll them over to the next grade level so that we can route them for the coming year. So we've already done that with our existing 5th, 6th, and 7th graders, and we've begun the process of routing those students to see what we have in front of us. A big effort is going to be to reduce the walk zones so that we do not have the 2-mile walk zone. So that is a big part of that as we're identifying the number of students in the 6th, 7th, and 8th, future 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that are going to be riding the buses. We're also identifying the number of routes, the number of students to put on the buses, and therefore then identifying where we can reduce those walk zones. So we have every intention of reducing that from that 2-mile walk zone.
As a follow-up, we do plan to have more of our kids on buses to middle school next year, correct?
Absolutely. By reducing the walk zones, we could certainly have far more students on the buses. The number is inexact at this point as we're working through this, but we have every intention to put more students on buses, fewer students walking.
And just so we are truly transparent about transportation, can you tell I know you're talking about the route system. Can you tell them what that system will do for us to make this more efficient for families?
So one of the great aspects of the routing system is it actually will put the students on the buses in the most efficient way for us, and then we work with that to see the local challenges we have, such as the rivers, the routes, the neighborhoods. There are things that the software can't tell us because it doesn't understand those localized challenges, but that at least will give us, in the routing software's mind, the most efficient routes, and then we can adjust those accordingly.
So, Mr. Giannessi, and the reason why I'm sharing this is because I certainly will do Screamer. The reason why I think it's important that we have this dialogue back and forth, we know transportation is a barrier for many of our families. The goal is to reduce those barriers. And so one of the things that's new, and I think I didn't hear when he was giving that explanation, is that we actually put out for bid to work with different companies to reroute our entire district for next year, to make sure that what would it take to make sure that every student had an opportunity to get on the bus. Okay, let's say that couldn't happen, then what's the next step? The goal is to increase the amount of kids that have access to transportation while also reducing the number of routes. We have inefficient routes right now, we just do. And so by rerouting the entire district, it takes a while, so we started this work, over a month and a half ago?
Yes.
We will have information to families before school even lets out for next year. So we're taking this barrier very seriously, so I want to make sure that you had a full understanding of what steps the district was going to take to make sure that we are addressing this need. This is not a question to answer. We will get to, yes, later. I will follow up at the end. I know how you do. So we will make sure that we will answer those questions. Thank you, Mr. Giannessi. Anything else related to transportation?
Nope, no more questions on transportation. If there's nothing else to add? Okay. Moving on to athletics. This transition opens up new opportunities. Oh, I hit the button. New opportunities for sixth graders to engage in sports at a more competitive level, and we're excited to offer the athletic programs to help students stay active and develop the teamwork skills. So, I don't know who to direct this to, but somebody on the panel, what will sports look like for the sixth graders?
My name is Frank Surge. I'm the director of schools. We're going to have a very engaging and vibrant sixth grade sports. We want to offer as many sports as we do in the 7th and 8th grade. And we need to do a little bit of research to follow up with what the area schools are offering so we can schedule competitions with our kids. The whole point of sports is to engage our kids in school life. And we also have that opportunity with other programs here as well. And one program that I'll mention that hasn't come up yet is our music program, engaged in our orchestra, band, choral programs that we do offer. And we also have a very active club program that kids will be able to be a part of as well. So we're all looking forward to that, and I think the students will really enjoy that, and they'll enjoy the program. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Hi.
I'm Mr. Satterfield. I'm the athletic director here at Pierre Moran, one of the 3 middle school athletic directors for the district. And we are members of the middle schools are members of what's called the Big 11 Conference. And there are 13 schools that eventually are going to be added to this conference, but you can see the banners on the wall back there. And we're lucky enough that in our conference allows 6th graders to participate in certain sports with our 7th and 8th graders. For example, in the fall, they can run cross country. In the winter, they can wrestle and do swimming. In the spring, they can do tennis and golf. And we're currently working with our Big 11 Conference to hopefully add track as a 6th grade sport and maybe even soccer going forward. And I know there's going to be additional discussions about what we can do with 6th graders for sports like basketball, volleyball, and some of those sports that I mentioned, that our conference doesn't offer sixth graders to compete in yet. We don't want to leave the sixth graders out. We want to make sure we don't lose that year of experience, and those discussions are ongoing, and more information will be coming out about those athletic opportunities for the sixth graders for basketball, volleyball, and what have you.
And this is just him being put on the spot. So we appreciate you, Mr. Satterfield. Thank you very much. And athletics is a huge part of this transition that we're thinking about. So I definitely wanted to make sure that you got a comprehensive view from Mr. Surge, who oversees the secondaries, but also Mr. Satterfield, who will be on the athletic committee.
All right. Anything else to add? Okay. The last category of questions that came in were things that we are putting into future considerations. So the first question that I have, it's multi-pronged, but it says, will district lines be redrawn for the middle school? And how do you plan to accommodate for that many extra students at North Side, which already seemed small before this?
I can speak about the redrawing lines. Right now, we're not looking at that, but I will have Mr. Giannessi talk about North Side's capacity.
The North Side actually has the same capacity as West Side and Pierre Moran in terms of space, classrooms, and number of classrooms. So again, we're confident with the number of students that we're bringing into the schools to make it a 6, 7, and 8, that we have the space needed to accommodate all 3 grade levels.
And will you share, we've actually met with every middle school principal to not redesign, but to identify all these areas where kids are going to go. Also, they will be in their own wings in each of the buildings. So there will be no trailers, there'll be no modules where kids are going to be learning. Everything is going to be inside of a school building. I've heard that people had some concerns about spacing. Actually, we're not thinking any school will be bigger than, as Mr. Giannessi said, between 750 and 800 kids. And that's pushing it, to be honest with you.
All right. Another question. How do we manage the transition of teachers from 6th grade at elementary to 6th grade at middle school?
That's a great question to that parent. I just want to thank you for asking that question. We are going to work with ETA to make sure that we are following our district guidelines, our negotiation, things are in our contract. So right now, I will tell you today, that's not all figured out, because there are teachers who have different levels of seniority in their buildings. There are teachers who are excited and ready to come over. We also have to look at licensure and all those things. So that is going to be something that we'll continue to update the community throughout. I think our next community update I have on our timeline is in December. And so there'll be plenty of conversations between now and then, and I'll look forward to providing more context to that in December. But I think the final determination on the timeline was in March to give everybody ample notice. So we'll be working with our Teachers Association and our district leaders for the next few months to determine those things.
Do we have any idea of the class size that we anticipate?
We do. When we talked about this, we're averaging, 25? Is that what we're thinking per classroom? Elkhart has actually reduced the class sizes this year at all levels, K through 5, I think, right? I know we did K through 5. Tony looking at me like he don't know. We did. we did. We reduced it K through 5. Middle school is a little bit different because specialized classes sometimes have more students in them, and sometimes they may not have as many. So you can't give a specific class size for the middle school, but we're projecting each classroom that we're bringing over 10 classes of 25, correct?
Yes, that's the approximate number based upon the number of 5th graders that will be 6th graders.
Thank you, Mr. Giannessi. Appreciate it.
All right. And the last question that we got, this is along the lines of the redistricting. It was talking about school closures. If we're shifting students out, 6th grade students out of the elementary, do we now have lower population, and what does that look like?
I will tell you during this transition, I am not focusing on school closures. That is not something I'm focusing on at this moment. My job is to make sure the community trusts me and my team to do this well. Now, we also know that there is an enrollment side on the other end. Well, what's happening at the elementary schools? Well, this is a year where we're looking at programming. We're also going to look at staffing at those buildings, and we're also going to look at what our enrollment will look like next year. So today, I can't tell you pinpoint exactly what that looks like, but I will tell you that to be a good steward to the school district, you have to factor in those things. That's just not something that I'm factoring in today. The most important thing is to make sure the babies from the elementary schools get into the middle schools next year, and they get in there successfully. Parents can come in and see the progress that's being made. I trust everything they said they were going to do, they did. Kids have an opportunity to come over and meet their middle school principals multiple times. That's something that I'm looking forward to. We want to make sure our programming is off the ground for next year. When we talk about those things, closing schools, I think we are sending the wrong message at this time. So that's not something that I'm not going to consider this year, but I will tell you that is something that we'll probably look at after we get our kids out of the elementary setting.
Okay, great. Well, that's the last of the questions that I've received. Has anybody on the panel received any questions that you would like to address? Well, you have the microphone. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I just want to remind everyone, if you didn't get a chance to submit your questions in advance, please take a moment. You can use the QR code. It will direct you to our website. You can submit the questions there. We also have papers on the black table in the back. You can write your questions as well. We're going to collect those questions and create an FAQ page that will be on the website as well, and that will be updated periodically. So thank you all so much for your interest. Thank you for coming out tonight and taking time out of your schedules. And we have 2 more forums coming up, one tomorrow and one on Saturday. So if you'd like to attend another one, we invite you out. If you have a friend or a neighbor that would like to attend, let them know that as well. So. I'm sorry?
These are recorded as well.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we did record these, and these will be uploaded to the website as well. So you can send the link to friends as well, or go back and rewatch. All right, thank you all so much. Have a great night.